Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Escondido in beautiful sunny California, where we had a heat wave today. We were in the 80s today. We were in the 80s yesterday, in the 80s today. Tomorrow we are plummeting back to the 60s. I really like the 60s. But it was been a gorgeous, gorgeous day here. Great day, lots to talk about. I suddenly realized today was day 185, and my challenge is to do one Facebook Live a day for a year. And I missed on day 183, the fact that that was our halfway point. So 2 days ago, I crossed over the 6-month mark for doing Facebook Lives one a day for a year. So I have now done 6 months worth of Facebook Lives every day since August the 1st. So I thought, wow, that's quite that was a milestone. So, but we're still going. You know, we're now 2 days past the halfway mark. So, sorry, I forgot to mention that 2 days ago. Got to go to Damek's 5th birthday party today. It was so much fun. The adults sat around and talked while the kids got to play. They had put a huge one of those bouncy house things on the side yard of their place, and it almost took up over half of the side yard. And the kids just had a blast running around in there, playing in there, jumping all around. It had an area in there where you could climb up to the top, and then it had a slide in it. And over in another corner, it had a basketball hoop, all soft-sided, of course. But they had a blast. It was just a fun day. And then later on, they ended up having this huge water fight, and the kids were like soaked. But you know, everybody was having a great time. It was a really cool, awesome day, and got to catch up with family, got to catch up with some of their friends I hadn't seen for a while. And that was sort of like my fast, probably the last time I'm going to see them until I get back from my 7-month road trip, unless I manage to see them one of the nights this week before we leave on Thursday. Zephy got to spend the day at the dog sitters, where she had a blast playing and running around like crazy. She is now conked out on the couch. She came the second week, because I also forgot we got there. Well, first of all, I had to get up early to go to the rental car place to pick up a rental car, since Animal was picked up yesterday. Got some silver Hyundai SUV thing. I have no idea what type it is. I didn't pay attention. It's an SUV. It's got the space in it that I need to take stuff to storage and to bring stuff back from storage, and that's it. It works. Gets me from point A to point B. And of course, I was pulling up into the driveway at the dog sitter's place and suddenly realized I had totally forgotten to bring Zephy's food with me for her, because sometimes she likes to eat dinner a little earlier. So she has breakfast in the morning, and she'd already had that, and then she has breakfast in the evening, somewhere around 4 o'clock. But so I said to Joan, I says, you know, I'm picking her up just up between 5 and 5:30, so she can have dinner when she gets home. And we came in the door. She comes straight over, starts drinking from her water bowl, then starts munching while I'm trying to take her harness off. We were done for the day. You know, we were done for the day. And so she's wanting to eat while I'm trying to take her harness off. That was a trip. So she had a good day out. She got to play with some dogs and just run around and have a lot of fun. So I've been sitting here, and I was kind of thinking, maybe I'll watch a movie, maybe I won't. And I was like, what do I do? And so I was looking on my table here, and I've got this big stack of magazines that's sitting here, and I know I've got to get through them. So I picked up the top one, which happened to be the December-January issue of the AARP magazine, this one here. And I always like to see what they have under the travel thing. Mind you, they have some really cool articles in here. But tucked away, if you have the AARP magazine, go to page 11. Tucked away down the bottom here is this article that says you can visit airports. And I thought, what the heck is this about? You can visit. Did you know you can visit airports? And there is now a trend called terminal tourism. So what the heck is terminal tourism? It allows people without boarding passes to go through security and enjoy all the food in shops. And I'm like, well, that's kind of like what it was back prior to 9/11, when you could go through and you didn't have to have a boarding pass to go through security. In 2017, Pittsburgh became the first airport in the nation to allow non-flyers to roam. A few others have followed. Check with your local airport before you go. Check with the local airport before you go. This has benefits for older Americans since many indoor malls have closed and airport offers climate-controlled environment with long corridors for walking. Totally agree with that part about the long corridors. What do I do before I get on a plane? If I would like to get there really, really early. I'm one of those people, when they say show up 2 hours early, I'm probably somewhere between 3.5 to 2.5 hours beforehand. And I'm in there, and before I get on the plane, even if it's only going to be like an hour long, it doesn't matter how long the flight is, I am walking up and down the terminals, just walking, just getting that exercise and getting rid of that excess energy before I have to sit for however long. And I especially love doing this at the LAX International Airport before I get on the flights to New Zealand, because, you know, I'm going to be stuck on a plane for 13 hours and not really have a lot of space to go walking in. So I try to get a lot of, and sometimes there was, in fact, the last flight to New Zealand, I clocked in 3 miles in the terminal before I got on the plane. 3 miles. So you can't, and that was just walking from one end of the Thomas Bradley terminal to the other end and back again several times, and just straight walking, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's all I did. And then after that, actually probably about halfway through, I stopped and had dinner because it was still like 3 hours to my flight. And then after dinner, I was back to walking backwards and forth, backwards and forth. The first thing I do though was go to like Hudson News and get my fictional paperback, because whenever I fly, for some reason I cannot read my Kindle on a plane. Don't ask me why. Some mental block in there or something. So I always go to the bookstore when I first get in there and find a paperback fiction book, a paperback novel to read on my flight. And so I get that, and once that's done, then I'm walking backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. And sometimes I go fast, sometimes I go slow, and the only reason I go slow is because I get caught behind people who are dawdling. I just want a power walk. So if you are in an area where you have a local airport, remember, call them first, where they allow you to do terminal tourism, it is a great way to get exercise. And you miss all the people movers, you go around the people movers, and you just get in there and you just power walk. It's awesome. I love walking terminals at an airport, but I only do it when it's flying. So when it's flying, when I'm flying, not when the airport's flying, when I'm flying. So yeah, so terminal tourism. Who even knew it was a thing? I did not know it was a thing. So you learn something new every day. And then I'm going down my list. I have my daily journal, going down my list. And so then I was really excited tonight because I got the little knock on the door after I got home. Because when I got home, I was expecting an Amazon package today, and it hadn't arrived. And I was like, where is it? And then I checked like around 7 o'clock, I think it was. And they said that I was the next stop. I was like, cool. And then you hear a little knock on the door, and I go out, and there's my little package sitting there. And in my package, there was some non-Christmas hats, because I have, when I go out walking in the evening, I like to put a hat on because it can get a little cold out there at this time of the year. But the only one that I have says ho, 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 ho all the way around it. And I'm like, yeah, we're beyond Christmas. So picked up some multicolored, different colored ones. They're all different solid colors, like bright pink. There was, let's see, bright pink. There was a red. There was a royal blue. There was a gray. There was a tan, which didn't look good on me, and an orange, which doesn't look good on me. So those two will find their way to a Goodwill or something. But yes, yeah, so I got my hats, and I got the book called The One Thing. This book, I've already read the first one, the intro, the first chapter, and I'm already on the second chapter. Somebody recommended this book to me at Networking Rich, or it was recommended at Networking Riches recently. And before I get books like this, even if somebody has recommended it to me, I've got an app on my phone called Blinkist. That's Blinkis. Excuse me. And Blinkist is like Cliff Notes for business books. So they go in there and they have what's called blinks. And so you open the book, and like the one for the one thing has 12 blinks in it. And each blink is sort of like they say it takes 18 minutes to read the 12 blinks. So you can read an entire book during that time with, just the highlights. And the cool part is that with Blinkist is I can go in there, I can preview the book, then I can decide, am I going to buy it? So because I want to read more, or that blink was just perfect. It was exactly what I needed. I got the information I wanted. I'm not interested in reading the rest of the book. Or it could tell me that that book's just a waste of time, not even bother about it. And it also helps as a refresher for other books, business books that I have read. So like with Think and Grow Rich, I can go in there and read the Think and Grow Rich Blinkist just to refresh the memory on some things and that sort of stuff. And they're good for if you're having to sit somewhere and wait, and you've got, like if you're in a doctor's office, a dentist's office, visiting the lawyer, somewhere where you're in a waiting room, waiting for the kids to get off soccer or whatever, or at a dance class, just where you're having to sit and wait, and even waiting for a plane, you can knock off a few books by then. But of course, I read paperback fiction in an airport. And it doesn't matter how long my flight, I have to have a paper book novel no matter how long the flight. If I'm flying coast to coast, the book will be read before I get there. And if I'm flying international, I have to get two. Anyway, back to this. And so you can knock off some of the blinks. And that's how I started reading Richard Branson's, which one was it? It was one of his first books, like The Virgin Way, I think it was called. And it talked about how he got the Virgin Records started, and which band they started with and all of that, and how they got that started, how he bought Necker Island, that was in there as well. So it was a really cool thing. And it was so funny that I actually went and I've got on my wish list to get the full version of that book, because I so enjoyed the blinks that I was like, I've got to read the rest of his story, not just these little highlights. I want to know more about him. So with The One Thing, I was enjoying it so much that I went and got the book. And like I said, I've already read the intro and the first chapters. These seem to be very small chapters, which is nice because I like books with small chapters in them. But I like, this is, as you can see, the post-it notes have already started. But it even comes with some of the phrases in here already highlighted for you, like underlined in gray. And I'm like, that's weird. At first I thought, have they sent me a used book? And then I looked at it closer and realized they hadn't. But chapter 1, there's got a quote there that says, be like a postage stamp. Stick to one thing until you get there. I thought, that is too cool. Stick to one thing until you get there. And then it talks about the movie City Slickers, which is one of my favorite movies with Jack Palance and Billy Crystal in it. And so they brought back one of my favorite scenes, which this whole book kind of circles around. And Curly says, do you want to know the secret of life? And Mitch, which is played by Billy Crystal, says, no, what? And Curly, who's Jack Palance, says this. And holds up one finger. And Mitch says, your finger? Curly, one thing, just one thing you stick to, that everything else don't mean shit. I can say that on here. And then Mitch says, that's great, but what's the one thing? Curly says, that's what you've got to figure out. What you've got to figure out. And I thought that is so cool. I always that scene has always stuck with me in that movie. And so they said the one thing is the best approach to getting what you want. So this is talking about. I've always heard when it comes to doing referrals or asking for referrals, the more specific you are, the more referable you become. This book here, The One Thing, concentrates on that same principle, but with business and personal life. When you concentrate on one small thing, bigger things happen. Because some people have their goals and stuff, and they even talked about this in chapter 1, or was it chapter 2, where their goals are huge goals, and they're focusing on the big picture when they should be focusing on that one small thing that'll make the big picture happen. And I'm just starting on chapter 2, which is about dominoes, and about how, I said it here, that in 1983, Lorne Whitefield wrote in the American Journal of Physics that he had discovered that dominoes fall could not only topple many things, they could also topple bigger things. He described how a single domino is capable of bringing down another domino that is actually 50% larger. So when you start with that one small thing, bigger things can happen. Because you start with a small thing and you start that chain reaction. So it's all about, so this book is about just concentrating on one small thing to make the extraordinary happen. Really enjoying it so far. I may even go read some more of this before I go to bed. The only problem is it'll probably activate my mind and go, and I have to be up super early in the morning because tomorrow I have to be up. I have to take Zephy with her crate because this is going to be our first night apart tomorrow night. Yes, tomorrow night Zephy's having her first sleepover. She's going to be staying with the dog sitters tomorrow night because I have to go up to Santa Clarita tomorrow for Brad's best friend's 60th birthday celebration. And then come back down here, and then the next Monday morning I've got to be up super early because I have to go drop Sparkles off at the service place to get the pre-trip checkup done, and that's getting the oil change done, the lubes, the checking all the fluids, all that stuff that they do. They've got a whole, and checking tire pressure, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, so tomorrow we've got to be up super early, so I don't want to get too far into this because knowing me, it will. These are nice short chapters. I like short chapters. Just a hint. That's why I like James Patterson books, because his chapters are like 2 to 3 pages long. This is pretty much the same. Like 4 or 5 pages long each chapter. So yeah, so this is about how to get extraordinary results when concentrating on one small thing. And instead of concentrating on big thing, you may have a big goal, but concentrate on that one small step. Solely focus on that. Remember, the more specific you are, the more referable you come. It applies the same principle from what I've seen so far in business, that when you concentrate on that, focus on that one thing, bigger things happen. So that's it from me. I am going to probably go read one more chapter of this, although it's got me hooked. The Blinkers got me hooked. This book has got me hooked. So I am now going to go read some more of this and then hit the sack early. Got everything, just about everything ready to go for tomorrow. So I can get Zephy dropped off at 7 a.m., hit the road to Santa Clarita, and get up there, enjoy time with Mike and his family. I haven't seen them for a while, so it'll be good to catch up with all of them and whoever else they've got coming in with friends and family and that sort of thing. And then I have to be meeting up with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, so I'm meeting up with Brad's brother and his wife after that event, and then heading back down here. So who knows how long it'll take me to get back here tomorrow, although we have discovered that on Sundays, when you're heading south, it's pretty free reign because everybody's heading north, because everybody's done with the beaches and they're now heading back home. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that happens tomorrow too. So it'll be a nice quick short trip home, because I have to pack up the car tomorrow night when I get home with the stuff that has to go to storage on Monday while Sparkles is being serviced. So that's it from me for tonight. Oh, lots of you guys have been busy in the comments field tonight. Let's see. Kathy put she loves terminal tourism. Interesting. Margaret says hi. Kia ora, Margaret. Michaela says she loves terminal tourism too. Margaret does the walking thing in airports, especially if I have a long flight. Yes, especially if the long flight, because it gets rid of all that excess energy. Not sure what the super sparkly question mark is, but everything's always super fantastic and sparkling there, Kathy. And Michaela's put, I have friends who are so familiar with airports, they can identify which corridor another friend is in at a particular airport. That's impressive. I don't do that much traveling through airports to be able to do that. And Kathy, what's that one book about? If you click the link that's in the description, it will take you to the page on Amazon, which has a better, probably a better description. But basically, the front says, The One Thing, the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results. It's written by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. And Gary Keller, I believe, is the chairman of the board and co-founder of Keller Williams Realty, which holds the #1 position as the largest real estate company in the world. So, So that's who Gary Keller is. He's the guy who was behind the... Oh no, my hats are not sparkly. They're just bright colors. I couldn't find sparkly beanies. I could only find plain colors. And did you know if you chase 2 rabbits, you will not catch either one? Have a great evening. Have a super fantastic sparkling evening. We will catch you tomorrow. He konera.